When I first started dating, my father gave me some advice that shaped my entire outlook on relationships. "Son," he said, "men of value do not tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or lies from women. Stay true to yourself and always be a man of worth." Those words echoed in my mind as I stood in the crowded wedding reception hall, bourbon in hand, watching my wife of 19 years in the arms of another man. Not just any man, her ex, but I am getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Tony, and until that night, I believed I had the perfect marriage with Vera. She was 5 years older than me, still stunningly beautiful at 44. While I remained in excellent physical shape at 30, we had twin daughters, Mara and Carrie, who were thriving in college. Our intimate relationship was solid, and the age gap between us had never been an issue. When we met, Vera was recently divorced from Dr. Clayton Adams, who had completed his residency at Mercy Hospital. When their marriage ended due to his infidelity with a nurse, Vera had thrown him out, heartbroken by his dishonesty. She had envisioned a life full of children and joy, but his betrayal shattered those dreams. The divorce impacted her deeply, both emotionally and financially. When medical residents earned little money, the settlement divided what little they had. Vera began working as a waitress to pay her bills. When we first met, it felt like a storybook romance. I was immediately smitten. Despite her past pain, I saw in her a wonderful treasure. Her attractiveness immediately drew my attention, but it was her love and compassion that ultimately won me over. I helped her overcome her obstacles, transforming her life for the better. We spent 19 wonderful years raising our twin daughters with much love. Vera appreciated my open and honest approach to our relationship. We constantly discussed the importance of loyalty and commitment, which provided her with a sense of security. I emphasized my admiration for faithfulness and my contempt for infidelity, commending her for having the courage to leave her cheating husband. Our marriage was founded on trust, loyalty, and dedication, at least until the unexpected incident at the wedding of her friend Carol. Carol had endured her own hardships. Her ex-husband had cheated on her during a life-threatening illness and then abandoned her because he could not bear her delayed recovery. This betrayal exacerbated Carol's condition and left her in depression for 5 years after her miraculous recovery. Then one day, she met Brandon at a grocery store, and her world brightened instantly. Everyone wanted to celebrate their happiness with a spectacular wedding. Vera, as the maid of honor, had been deeply involved in the wedding preparations. So when I received news that a critical merger meeting had been moved up, requiring me to travel internationally, she was understandably upset. "I cannot believe this," she said, when I told her about the schedule change. "We have been planning this for so long, and now you are canceling at the last minute. I will be there alone. Do you understand how embarrassing that will be for me? Could not someone else go instead?" I tried to explain the situation. "This contract is worth more than $2 billion, and I am in charge of it. We have been working hard on it for the past year, and no one else can take my position. Many people's jobs depend on our success." She remained furious, refusing to speak to me and insisting I sleep in the guest room the night before my departure. Her coldness was out of character, but I attributed it to her disappointment. The next morning, I tried to kiss her goodbye, but our bedroom door was locked. I told her how much I loved her and promised to call when I arrived in Germany. I left feeling terrible about the situation, but certain we would resolve it upon my return. When I called her before my flight, her phone went to voicemail. I left an apologetic message and texted before takeoff and after landing 10 hours later, but received no response. Worried, I contacted our daughters and asked them to check on their mother. Then came an unexpected development. The merger meeting was canceled due to a death in the other company's CEO's family. I immediately booked a direct flight to Chicago, calculating that I could arrive at the wedding reception by 9 in the evening to support my wife. I believed this gesture would make her happy. When I arrived at the reception hall shortly after 9, the party was in full swing. The venue was packed with guests enjoying loud music, dancing, and plenty of drinks. I was eager to surprise Vera and make amends. With over 200 people present, it took me some time to locate her. I ordered a double bourbon and scanned the crowd. Eventually, I spotted her sitting at a table with her ex-husband, Clayton. I knew Clayton was close with the bride, but his attendance at the wedding, particularly without his wife, surprised me. I was fatigued from my travels and fascinated by what I was witnessing. I observed them from a distance, noting how comfortable they appeared together despite their history. What happened next made my world crumble. Vera suddenly rose, took Clayton's hand, and led him to the dance floor. She looked stunning in her tailored ivory gown, and I desperately hoped this was nothing more than a dance. But as they moved through several slow songs, their intimacy became unmistakable. I remained seated, nursing my drink and watching how events unfolded. Vera had clearly been drinking, evident in her flirtatious demeanor. While she often became more affectionate after a few drinks, openly kissing another man in front of her friends was neither normal nor acceptable. I watched in stunned silence as my wife shared private moments with her ex. When his hands began wandering inappropriately and they exchanged passionate kisses, rage built within me. Just as I was about to confront them, They returned to a table off to the side and continued their intimate encounter, his hands visibly on her chest. In that moment, I remembered my father's words. Men of value do not tolerate disrespect. I could have created a scene, ruined the wedding, and stopped them. Instead, I made a different choice. I took out my phone, zoomed in, and captured several close-up photos and a brief video. Then I sent Vera a message. Guess what, sweetheart? My meeting was rescheduled, and I returned early. It appears you are in good hands tonight. I will go back home. I assume you will be spending the night with Dr. Clayton. I understand now why you have been avoiding my calls and texts. Have a wonderful time. And here is to the end of our marriage. I will be gone by the time you return tomorrow. I watched as she noticed her phone light up. She checked the message, and her expression immediately changed. She looked around frantically, finally spotting me near the exit. As I turned to leave, I heard her call out, "Tony, please wait." I gave her a cold look, shook my head, and walked out to my car before she could catch up. My phone began ringing incessantly, but I was too hurt to answer. After 19 years of marriage, seeing her return to the man who had broken her heart before me was more than I could bear. As I drove away, the messages poured in. "Tony, please come back. I need to explain. I love you. Please come back. It is not what you think." But after 2 days of long flights with no communication from her, her cold behavior before I left, and witnessing her intimacy with Clayton, I had no interest in her explanations. I was furious and refused to engage with her justifications. After ignoring 20 calls and texts, I finally replied with one message. "Forget you. I am excelling at my job. My children are in college with everything paid for. I am free to do as I please. I still have enough youth to begin again." 4 hours into my 7-hour drive back to Nashville, I stopped at a diner for dinner and a short nap. While eating, I decided to update my Facebook status from happily married to single and available. I shared 2 photos of Vera and Clayton kissing passionately at the wedding, adding that Vera was upgrading by reuniting with her ex-husband, while I was returning to the dating scene. It might have been immature, but to me, it was the truth. I was moving forward without her. The strange thing was that Clayton was nearly 50, balding, overweight, and frankly not an upgrade in any way. I could not understand why she would risk our marriage for a man who had already betrayed her once. The pain was overwhelming, but my resolve was firm. In my view, either my wife was committed to me, or she was free to be with someone else. We all make our own choices, and Vera had made hers. Now, I would make mine. When I finally reached our home the following morning, my phone was flooded with messages from Vera, her parents, her sister, and friends. I ignored Vera's calls but answered when her father, James, contacted me. "James," I explained, "I had no indication she was dissatisfied with our marriage, but adultery was the final blow to our happiness. I cannot accept her disrespect in front of people we know. She clearly still has feelings for Clayton, and now she can be with him. I intend to find a woman who will appreciate what I bring to the table and remain loyal." James arrived at our house an hour later, pleading with me to wait and talk to Vera before taking drastic action. When he asked me to give her a chance to explain, I showed him the photos of them openly embracing at the wedding. Even her father was troubled by her behavior. As I entered our home, the house we had turned into our perfect sanctuary over the past 5 years, I felt tears rise. We had refinanced when mortgage rates dropped below 3%, extracting about $500,000 in equity. I had established $100,000 trust funds for each of our daughters' college education. With the remaining $100,000 invested in renovating the house, Vera had no interest in our finances as long as her needs were met, trusting my financial expertise while we lived comfortably. She had returned to work as a receptionist to help with the additional monthly expenses from the refinance, while I looked forward to stock options from my recent promotion to CFO. Now, sitting at our kitchen table one last time, I wrote her a brief note, telling her not to call me and that we would talk when the divorce papers were ready. I left my wedding ring on top of the note and walked out the door. Before leaving, I divided our savings, which totaled approximately $50,000, and canceled our shared credit card after paying off the balance. If she contested the divorce, she would be responsible for all bills on her own, something her receptionist salary could not cover. As I drove away from what had once been my sanctuary, I felt a strange mix of grief and determination. The life I had built with Vera was over, but a new chapter was about to begin. What I did not realize then was how dramatically that new chapter would unfold, or the surprising twist fate had in store for both of us. I moved into the company condo, designated for visiting clients. My CEO, Bill, who had faced a similar situation years before, approved my stay and even suggested I postpone receiving my stock options until later, advice that would prove invaluable. The next day, I instructed security to respectfully escort Vera out. If she attempted to enter my office building, when she arrived Monday morning, she quickly realized she would not be able to see or speak with me at work. I remained unreachable, leaving her isolated, remorseful, and uncertain about her future. My daughters called in a panic, begging me to talk with their mother. I explained gently but firmly that their mother had chosen to be with someone else, which I considered an unforgivable betrayal. I take infidelity very seriously, I told them. What your mother did constitutes cheating in my view. They understood my position and respected my decision. I assured them I would always be there for them while teaching them a crucial lesson about respecting future spouses and understanding the gravity of betrayal. After sharing those revealing photos on Facebook, something unexpected happened. I suddenly became popular among women. I began dating women younger than myself, full of energy and excitement, something I had not experienced in years. Vera's constant complaints had been replaced by exciting encounters, affectionate messages, and attention from women who simply wanted to enjoy life. 1 month after that fateful post, I met Cheryl, who would eventually become my second wife. We connected immediately, and our relationship became official. Shortly after my divorce from Vera was finalized, Vera was devastated when she learned about my new life. She was upset with herself, but also jealous that I had moved on without giving her another chance. I refused all her requests to meet, communicating only through our lawyers. We eventually sold the house. After paying the real estate agent fees and other expenses, less than $1,000 in equity remained. I decided Vera should receive that small amount. Her lawyers fought hard to claim a portion of my future earnings, but the court ruled they could not base the settlement on potential future income. Instead, they calculated my average income to determine alimony. I agreed to pay Vera $22,000 per year for 2 years, enough to sustain her until she could support herself or find someone new. In the years that followed, Vera and I never spoke directly, only through our lawyers. She relocated to Chicago, where she joined a support group and eventually began living with Dr. Clayton. 3 years later, at our daughter's graduation, Vera met my new wife, Cheryl, who was 28 and pregnant, along with our 1-year-old daughter, Jolene. Vera, now 47, appeared much older, and Dr. Clayton had remained in the background. After the ceremony, Vera managed to speak to me alone. "I am so sorry, Tony," she said, her voice quivering. "I regret what I did every day. We could have had such a wonderful life together. I risked our perfect marriage for nothing." I told her I had forgiven her. While I never expected to find her in another man's arms, I expressed gratitude for our good times, our beautiful daughters, and the love we had shared. Her actions, painful as they were, had led me to Cheryl and a new family that helped me overcome my anger. "Focus on your future," I advised her. "Our past is behind us. I wish you well and hope to see you at future family gatherings." Cheryl joined us then, holding our daughter. The age difference between the two women was striking. Vera at 47 could have easily been mistaken for Cheryl's mother. This realization deepened Vera's regret over the choices that cost her the love of her life because of one night of anger and poor judgment. Over the next decade, we met occasionally at our daughter's weddings. Vera remained unmarried, but continued living with Clayton. Seeing me with my growing family stirred painful memories for her. The happy life she once had with me was now just a distant dream, leaving her days filled with regret. In a twist of fate that summer, after cashing in my stock options, I bought back our old family home when it returned to the market. Everyone except Vera was thrilled that the house filled with so many memories was ours again. My daughters especially enjoyed visiting, reminiscing about their childhood in that loving environment. Life continued to reward me. At 49, I stood at the peak of my personal and professional life, living in our family home with Cheryl, now 38, our daughters, Jolene and Lily, and regular visits from Mara and Carrie, who were in their late 20s. Cheryl had brought a freshness to my world that I had not realized was missing. Her optimism complemented my disciplined nature, and together, we built a life filled with laughter and adventure. The home that once symbolized my shattered dreams with Vera now bustled with new life. Jolene's artwork on the refrigerator, Lily's dance performances in the living room, and Cheryl's gardening experiments in the backyard. Professionally, my gamble on delaying the stock options had paid off tremendously. They had skyrocketed in value, allowing me to retire early, though I chose instead to mentor young executives and invest in promising startups. My financial success gave me the freedom to focus on what mattered most, family and giving back to the community through a scholarship fund. For underprivileged students, Vera's life had taken a different direction. At 57, she lived quietly in Chicago with Clayton, who had retired from his medical practice. Their relationship had settled into a comfortable but unremarkable routine. She worked part-time as a receptionist, a job that kept her occupied but lacked fulfillment. The alimony payments had ended years ago, and while she had managed to save some money, her financial stability depended heavily on Clayton. She often wondered what might have been had she not allowed anger and alcohol to cloud her judgment that night. Her regret was a constant companion, especially when she saw how vibrant my life had become compared to her own. Then came the event that would change everything: a family barbecue at our old home. Now mine again? Mara had invited Vera, believing it was time for us to find closure. I did not object, having forgiven her long ago. Cheryl welcomed her graciously, sensing the older woman's discomfort. As Vera stood on the patio, holding a glass of lemonade, her eyes scanned the familiar space. The oak tree where Mara and Carrie had built a treehouse now held a swing for Jolene and Lily. The garden, once her pride, had been transformed by Cheryl's modern landscaping. I approached her, noticing her unease. "It is good to see you," I said kindly. "The girls wanted you here, and I am glad you came." Vera nodded, her eyes moist. "Thank you, Tony. This place is beautiful. You have done so much with it." We stood in silence for a moment before she spoke again, her voice barely audible. "I have never stopped regretting what I did. I threw away everything for a moment of stupidity. I want you to know I am sorry, and I am happy you found someone who makes you happy." I studied her face, noting the lines etched by time and regret. I felt no anger, only a distant sadness for the woman I had once loved. "I forgave you long ago," I replied. "We both made choices. Yours hurt me, but they led me here. I would not trade this life for anything." Vera managed a small smile. "You always were the better person. I am trying to be better for the girls, for myself. That is all any of us can do." I agreed, gesturing toward my family. "Come, join us. Mara and Carrie would love to see you." The evening passed pleasantly, a step toward healing for Vera, and evidence of my ability to move forward without bitterness. As the sun set over the backyard, casting a golden glow on my gathered family, Cheryl slipped her hand into mine. I squeezed it gratefully, appreciating the life we had built. For Vera, the visit brought unexpected resolution. She left with newfound determination, returning to Chicago where she began volunteering at a women's shelter, channeling her regret into helping others rebuild their lives. 2 months later, I received news that shook me to my core. Clayton had been diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer with a prognosis of less than 6 months. Vera called our daughters in tears, not knowing where to turn. Despite our history, something within me stirred. I remembered the woman I had loved for 19 years, the mother of my children. After discussing it with Cheryl, whose compassion continued to amaze me, I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I called Vera directly for the first time in over a decade. "I heard about Clayton," I said when she answered, clearly stunned to hear my voice. "I am sorry." "Thank you," she replied, her voice breaking. "I do not know what to do. The medical bills, and I cannot care for him alone." I took a deep breath. "Vera, we have a guest house on the property now. You and Clayton are welcome to stay there during his treatment. The medical center here is excellent, and you would be close to Mara and Carrie." The silence on the other end stretched for so long, I thought we had lost the connection. "Why would you do this?" she finally asked. "After everything?" "Because forgiveness means little without action," I replied, "and because no one should face death alone." A month later, Vera and Clayton moved into our guest house. My daughters were stunned by my decision, but came to understand it, as they watched their mother care for her dying ex-husband with the support of their father and stepmother. Clayton passed away 4 months later, with Vera holding his hand and my family nearby, offering support. At the small funeral, Clayton's sister approached me. "He told me something before he died," she said quietly. "That night at the wedding, nothing physical happened between them beyond what you saw. He wanted you to know that. He said Vera never stopped loving you, even when she was angry." I nodded, surprised by how little it mattered now. The truth was, we had all moved on. The betrayal had shaped our paths, but it no longer defined us. After the funeral, Vera prepared to return to Chicago, but Cheryl suggested she'll stay in the guest house a while longer. "You need time to heal?" my wife told her, "and your grandchildren enjoy having you around." The arrangement we all expected to be temporary gradually became permanent. Vera found a job at a local art gallery and slowly rebuilt her relationship with our daughters. She became Grandma Vera to Jolene and Lily, who adored her stories and baking skills. Cheryl and Vera developed an unlikely friendship, 2 women who loved the same man in different chapters of his life, finding common ground in their love for our blended family. As for me, I discovered that true strength lies not in walking away from betrayal, but in the capacity to rebuild something meaningful from the ashes. My father's advice about being a man of value took on new meaning. Value also meant compassion, forgiveness, and the courage to rewrite endings. 10 years after that fateful wedding night, our expanded family gathered for Thanksgiving dinner in the home that had seen both heartbreak and healing. As I looked around the table, at the faces of those I loved, Cheryl, our daughters Mara and Carrie with their spouses, and yes, even Vera, I realized that sometimes the path of dignity leads not away from those who hurt us, but through the challenging terrain of true forgiveness. The betrayal that once defined our story had become merely a chapter in a much larger tale of redemption. Not the ending I had expected, but perhaps the one we all needed. The end. Please like and subscribe for more. Thank you.